blames all Christians or Christianity itself, or all Jews or Judaism itself, or all Hindus or Buddhists or their faiths, or atheists for that matter, for acts of terrorism committed by a distinct minority of people from those groups. Yet too often, we find Muslims collectively burdened with guilt by association of faith, when individuals or groups claim to be acting in the name of Islam, instead act outside of its moral and ethical boundaries. Then the media or others place the blame for atrocities on what they call Islamic extremists or terrorists, when our faith is not extreme, nor does it advocate terrorism. Since the very night of September 11, 2001, Muslim groups throughout America and the world have been denouncing the targeting of innocent, non-combatant civilians and others by extremist Muslims. Yet all of us are constantly asked, why don't you say something? Why don't the Imam say something? Why don't the leaders say something? To which we reply, we have and we are. The question is, why aren't you aware of that? So today, we as leaders of Muslim congregations and houses of worship throughout New York City, and you have each of the boroughs represented here, we say again, for all to hear, that we denounce acts of extremist violence, no matter whom or what. Certainly, there are violent extremists who are Muslim, but their acts of terrorism are not Islamic. Their acts of terrorism are un-Islamic. In our society, we hear from the lips of Islamophobes or those influenced by them that the canonical law of Islam, Sharia law, is to blame for the acts of terrorism committed by extremist Muslims. However, the truth is that the sacred laws of our faith forbid the very acts being committed by extremist Muslims, be they individuals or groups. So as Muslim leaders in New York City, we stand in solidarity with the distinct majority of people throughout America and the world, including the viable scholars of our own religion, both here in America and abroad, in denouncing all acts of political violence committed by extremist individuals, groups, or governments. And we do so regardless of the color of their skin, the country of their origin, their religion or lack thereof, or their politics. We do so because as Muslim leaders, we stand for justice. We are ever mindful that there are injustices in the world that need to be righted. We feel the pain in our hearts of all Muslims oppressed anywhere in the world. Too many of those injustices are committed by Muslims against Muslims and others, and vice versa. It matters not to us the identity of the perpetrators of the injustice, nor its victims. Right is right, and wrong is wrong, and oppression and injustice are wrong, no matter whom or what. However, we of the Majlis Ashura, we do not believe that two wrongs make a right. We are here today to make it clear that struggling for justice is right, but violent extremism is wrong. So today we are announcing our implementation of a 4-point citywide response to appeals from anywhere in the world calling Muslims to acts of terrorism. Number one, beginning this week on our website and in social media, we are posting our principled opposition against terrorism with evidences from the primary sources of our faith, the Holy Quran, and the Sunnah or prophetic tradition of Prophet Muhammad ibn Abdullah, the Messenger of Allah, to whom the Quran was revealed, peace be upon him. Number two, we continue to declare that we stand for both public safety and the civil, constitutional, and human rights of all Americans, including Muslims. We continue to stand ready to partner reasonably with those whose commitment is to both of these essential elements of American society. Number three, this Friday, October 17th, simultaneous sermons will be delivered at mosques throughout the city, denouncing extremist acts and tactics that exceed the boundaries of Islamic sacred law, but upholding the principle of justice. And fourthly, this November, next month, we will once again sponsor for the fourth year our citywide mosque open house events, as we have been doing, wherein Muslim houses of worship will open their doors for visits and activities from their neighbors of various faiths. And lastly, we call upon the governments of the world to stop using state-sponsored violence as a tool of oppression and repression of the masses of the people seeking freedom, justice, and equality. We call for the elimination of poverty, which, as our neighbor, Christian neighbor here in New York City, the esteemed Dr. James Forbes, he says, poverty is a weapon of mass destruction. So we call upon the governments of the world to eliminate poverty, as well as economic, political, and social injustice, which leaves persons vulnerable to calls to extremism as the only viable solution to the very real problems of society and the world, and we thank you. Takbir! Takbir! Takbir!
Now that our stance is very clear to the media, to the government, to our fellow citizen Americans, and to our own community, and specifically to our youth, I want to open the floor for Q&A, and I ask all of you who wants to ask questions to identify yourself, please, and your organization, and please focus on questions about what we have stated and reported here today. Thank you.
Do you mind, sir, just spelling your first full name and where you're from first?
Title is Imam, capital I-M-A-M, Al-Hajj, A-L-H-A-J-J, Talib, T-A-L-I-B, last